Hello, Mavericks. This is Rob Reinhold. It is August 9th, and let's get into the currency recap. So today was the day before the US CPI report, and it was really kind of a boring day. So we're going to look at this market, and we're going to see that there wasn't a lot of opportunity today. We did have a slightly bearish market. So we had the SPX down 0.4%, the world index down 0.5%. Cryptos did get hit. We'll take a look at those. But overall, what's happened is 2 days ago, NVIDIA missed earnings, and they missed earnings pretty badly. They were supposed to make $820 billion, and it got ratcheted down to like $670 billion. That's a really big miss. And so tech has really been weighing down the markets. And then we got Coinbase, Akamai, and Roadblocks all after the bell that are all lower after poor earnings. So we're still in this period where it tends to have a little bit of weight on this market to the downside. But if we take a look at stuff like the S&P, you can see that yes, the last 2 days have been weak, especially when you take a look at that top that we made on Monday, where Monday it looked like it wanted to break out and it just sunk right down. But we are in this band of resistance that we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks. And we said it's likely going to hold in this area or maybe even pull back a little bit before we can even make an attempt to break higher. And that's just where we are in the market. And so, as I mentioned, we are a day ahead of a really big US CPI report. It's not surprising that the markets are mildly bearish going into this. The ones I do want to talk about is crypto. This is the crypto basket of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and Litecoin. And you can see we've been in this channel going higher, and this is really in some danger of breaking this channel. If it does break this channel and break this 20-period moving average, I think you can no longer be mildly bullish on cryptos, and you've got to go to more of a neutral stance. So if we take a look at where we are, again, in the S&P, we think we're just in this band, likely to stay in here, maybe pull back a little bit more to the bottom of it, but that's really about it. But technically speaking, we do have a 20-50 moving average cross. We do have it solidly above both moving averages. We need to give this market at least a +2. We've been talking about this for about 8 days now, that you can no longer be bearish. If you were bearish before on equities, you no longer can be. The technicals are telling you you can't be bearish at all. So if we take a look here, we've got CPI tomorrow. It's a big deal. If you haven't had a chance to watch our preview of the CPI report, please go ahead and watch that. We go through the CPI, the expectations, and also we go through some of the trade setups we're looking at after that report comes out tomorrow morning. So in this session, I really want to talk about things other than the CPI because we already just did a preview on that. I want to talk about some other things. So I'm going to be focusing on some other currencies. So let's jump into the currency analysis. This is where we stood as of 24 hours ago. We definitely have seen the cryptos come down quite substantially, but let's take a look at the actual change here. So we have cryptos down across the board. Everything was down. Bitcoin was down the least, but that doesn't really matter much. Everything was down in crypto land. And if we take a look at foreign currencies, take a look at these moves. 0.08, negative 0.18. This is a very, very tight range. And we're going to see that a lot of things are simply neutral. So let's take a look at the chart on everything. Let's start out with Bitcoin. Here we are. I'm on Bitcoin. I'm on a 4-hour chart. And you can see this is basically zero. This is a flat. We've got something saying up, something saying down, but overall going nowhere. Ethereum in a very, very mild uptrend, if you can even call it that. But look, this low just came down and touched the last low. So to me, this uptrend is in a little bit of trouble, but it wasn't really an uptrend in the first place. Overall, zero on Ethereum. If we go to Bitcoin Cash, now we're seeing a little bit more weakness. So Bitcoin Cash has started to come down and break down to some levels we haven't seen since about 3 or 4 days ago. So Bitcoin Cash is a mildly negative. And if we take a look at Litecoin, we pretty much see the same thing. We've broken below this support line. And so we are now more of a -1 on Litecoin. Ultimately, they're all at zeros, -1s, not really tradable at the moment. Let's flip over to the foreign currencies. As I said earlier, I'm not going to be talking about dollar in this session. If you want to see my outlook on the dollar, go watch our CPI preview, and that's where I get into a lot of dollar analysis. But as you can see here, zero is not going anywhere. Moving average isn't going anywhere. The range isn't going anywhere. It's consolidating into this meeting. This is sideways, but it's also consolidation. When there's a big report and you get this really compressed movement, it's kind of telling you that the spring is getting wound for when that report comes out. There's likely going to be a big move. We do like dollar, and we like dollar more to the upside than the downside. We also talked about yen, and how yen and dollar are very highly correlated at the moment, negatively correlated. So when one goes up, the other goes down. So both yen and dollar here, as you can see, there's been no movement in yen as well. So we expect this to be the biggest mover out of the CPI report, and that's the trade we're really looking for out of the CPI report. As I said, we're not going to be talking about that in this session. Let's talk about the other currencies. So here we have Swiss franc. Now this is looking very strong. We've got rising EMA, we've got rising parabolic SAR, and we've got a nice rising RSI. This looks good. RSI's peaked a little bit. So instead of a +3, we have a +2, but Swiss franc is a strong currency at the moment. If we take a look at euro, it's a 0, as you can see, hasn't really gone anywhere in the last 4 or 5 days. So we're going to give euro a 0 here on our velocity score. If we go down to pound, we have a falling EMA, we have a falling parabolic SAR, and we have a flattish RSI, but it is down below the 50 area. So if you take a look at the scoring on the pound is a -2. So moderately bearish. We can definitely take a look at pound on the short side. If you take a look at CAD is also showing some positive correlation with the dollar. So as the dollar goes sideways, the CAD is really just going nowhere. Let's finish off with the Aussie and Kiwi. And you can see the Aussie has been in this little bit of an uptrend here. We're making these trend lines, or we're right at the bottom of this trend line. Okay, Aussie might be worth a buy here. I don't love it. I want to see a little bit more of a bounce off of this bottom trend line. But Aussie is mildly bullish. And Kiwi, let's finish off with Kiwi. And this is actually, to me, the most interesting one. Overall, the Kiwi has been doing nothing and been going nowhere. But you can see when we get up into this 70-40 area, 70-50 on the Kiwi basket, if we can break through this, there is a lot of overhead resistance. Then once we break through this, we could really have a nice move to the upside. So Kiwi to me looks promising. It's not ready yet, but it definitely looks promising. So here's how currencies have moved in the last 24 hours. We've had a whole bunch of them just go to neutral, to 0. We've seen the pound weaken a little bit. We've seen Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash a little bit weaker than the rest. And we've seen the Swiss franc move up. So over the next 24 hours, not talking about the CPI report, I think these are the pairings you look for. Swiss franc yen, Kiwi yen, and pound Swiss franc and pound Kiwi. First off, I'm going to take a look at Swiss franc yen. As you can see here, we've had a really big, nice move. These are really nice moves. When you get moves like this, you don't get stopped out. They're a very nice move, and you can see big one up. We had a base, and we've broken out of this base. We have been basing here for the last 20 hours. For me, I'm looking at a possible breakout to the upside. I don't know when that's going to be, but if we take a look here at an hourly chart, we can see that we can start to build some points. So 141.87 is going to be the top of this high base. I think you want to be looking at placing an order to buy if it breaks out of 141.87, 88, somewhere around there to the upside. Let's take a look at pound Kiwi with the other pairings. And again, this is going to be a short here. So as you can see, your pound Kiwi, we are now breaking below this support line. We tickled below it here recently, and you see we're bouncing back up. To me, I want to be a seller on this little bit of a bounce. So bounces up to probably 192.10. It probably stays in this area. So all I'm looking for is some nice red candles to the downside. We are in the Asian session, going into the European session. This might not happen for 5 or 6 hours. I think you just want to be having some alerts out there. And if it does break down below 191.80, I think this is where you want to really get that alert and say, hey, it is time to make this trade. But right here, right now, it doesn't look like it's ready to break down, but nice chart pattern here. Nice chart pattern here breaking down below those last two lows on pound Kiwi. Over the next 10 to 12 hours until the CPI report, you really want to avoid dollar and yen. These are most likely not going to go anywhere. It's a bad trade, and unless you want to be in these currencies before the announcement comes out, which is dangerous, I think you just want to avoid them. So for right now, Kiwi, Swiss franc look strong, pound and yen look weak, and my favorite one here is Swiss franc yen over the next 10 to 12 hours. That is the market roundup. Thanks for joining us. We'll be meeting live as a firm tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be talking about the movement off of the CPI report and trades going forward. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.